So, welcome everybody to our to today's LinkedIn Live with Afonso, and
Hey.
I am super excited that he's here today because I guess what most of you joined for one reason, and it was a post that Afonso, I think you posted it on LinkedIn like 4 months ago, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and he claimed, and I absolutely love like the visuals that Afonso is usually putting like next to his post, like this sketching into his notebook. Like product managers do not own the product vision, but product leaders do. And before we dive into that today, I am actually wondering where everybody is from. So you can just like post that in the chat, and we can get a bit of a feeling where everybody is joining from. Are you from Germany, Norway, Spain, Portugal? Yeah, that would be exciting to know. And with that, I'm going to introduce Afonso for a bit. And please make sure to add anything I might miss in a bit. So, to be honest, like when I read the bio of Afonso, there's like, I don't know whether you know that game where people say like 3 things about themselves and like 2 are true and 1 is false. So I love it. So Afonso is not only a former product director at Ease and former VP at Leerdal, but he also apparently lent his voice to characters in Disney and Pixar films, plus represented, and that is the one thing I'm like super excited about because I'm a huge rugby nut. He represented Portugal in professionally rugby sevens. And when I read that, I thought, yeah, okay, the first one is true, but like the other 2 ones are definitely not true.
That's a good point. It's difficult to know, but yeah, it's just a quick, not correction, but a minor detail. The Disney and Pixar movies are, of course, the voices in the Portuguese versions, because I'm from Portugal, so then I did that for a while. Yeah, I'm not that famous, Sebastian. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I still love it. I still absolutely love it. So yeah,
but it was really fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, so with that, welcome, Afonso. Is there anything you would love to add? Because I think one of the things I hardly ever do is introduce people and tell the audience about what they are passionate about, because I feel this is also something that should be coming from the person themselves. So maybe you can add like a couple of words what drives you in product.
Definitely. I am very passionate about product. If you haven't noticed yet, I'm just so driven by understanding how product organizations work, how we can all do a better job of leading product organizations, how we can develop better products sooner with happier teams. So I'm really passionate about that. I'm obviously very passionate about rugby, so just we have that in common as well, Sebastian. And I love to hike. I love sports in general. And I live in Norway. I'm a Portuguese living in Stavanger. So hiking is a thing I like to do these days, and nature allows here. So I'm really happy to be here as well.
Nice. There's also something we have in common. Not that I hike that much, but like nature, at least in Munich, allows for a lot of hiking. So maybe at some point you can come over. I think like one of the awesomest things that you can do in Munich is like sleep on top of a mountain, and that's absolutely brilliant.
Is it interesting? Yeah, yes. I definitely want to check it out then.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, so we have a lot of ground. So like we talked before, and we figured we actually have a lot of ground to cover today, because it's such a complex topic, and it also comes with let's say a lot of side quests around that topic. Because obviously, like when you put out a statement like product managers do not own the product vision, but product leaders do, like a lot of people are kind of obviously offended, because I mean, at the end of the day, this is kind of a thing in product, right? The product vision, the strategy is something that a lot of people are talking about. But maybe in your own words, like what is actually a product vision, and why is it important?
Yeah, so good question. So first of all, yes, the post did get some comments, and you can clearly see that it's an intense debate, and I would love to deconstruct that. So I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation. So a product vision is basically a destination of where you want to go. It's the world you want to create. And there's, of course, a few reasons why it's important, but one of them is because it brings everyone together towards where we want to go, towards a destination that we want to take all of those efforts from all of the teams, especially if it's a large organization. So it's one of the most important things product leaders have as part of the context to lead the teams. It's to have a strong product vision rooted in insights, lofty but realistic, agnostic of tech limitations and business constraints, that is able to inspire everyone to wake up in the morning and think, okay, this is the world we want to create. This is where we want to go. And so that's incredibly powerful, for any product organization.
And so you said, so it's basically the reason why you want to wake up in the morning and then work on that particular product. So that kind of gives the answer why it's important, right? So that's I think we have already covered that then. But the question is, and now I'm gonna just like dive right in, like
go for it.
If product managers are not responsible for it, like who is actually responsible for defining the product vision and then like also owning that?
Yeah. So the term ownership needs to be very, very clear, and so I want to talk about that a little bit. When I say that product leaders own the product vision and product strategy, what I actually mean is that they are ultimately the ones primarily accountable for ensuring that there is one. So the product leader, let's say either the chief product officer or a director of product or a VP of product, whatever title that person has, which doesn't matter that much, but whatever that whoever that person is, needs to ensure that there is a vision. And not only that there is a vision and a product strategy, but that everybody understands, everybody in the organization understands. And so that means that that person is communicating that product vision, that product strategy to the whole organization, and is also evangelizing that product vision and strategy across the whole organization. And so you can ask, okay, but why aren't the product managers owning that? It's, of course, everybody owns it in a way, but they're just not the ones primarily accountable for it, as it is portrayed in some books and some articles that you can read out there. And we can talk about why is it important that product leaders have the primary responsibility for that, rather than the product managers and owners as well. So we can dive right into that. And the first argument is around the strategic implications that has. So there's various different contexts, okay? So there's startups, medium-sized organizations, massive organizations, but if every single product manager is responsible for her own product vision and product strategy, then we lose the whole point of having a North Star that is connecting the dots, that is creating this umbrella, this unified direction for all of these teams. So imagine you have an organization with 100 PMs. I mean, how messy would it be for every single product manager to have her own version, a vision and strategy? So it's not very scalable, and it loses the point of being strategic in that way. So the strategic part is one of the main arguments. And then, of course, scalability is one of the second ones, but you probably have some follow-up questions. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like talking about like strategic downsides. I mean, you said, all right, so the product leaders are responsible for defining it and they are kind of owning it, but you made the distinction there saying, but of course, like everybody should be kind of owning parts of it, but they are just not accountable for it. So I think a lot of questions that we got like before the event, I mean, now it's quite clear, like there is a downside if you have like 100 people all like kind of defining their own small vision, because it kind of doesn't pay into the larger one. But how are product managers that are maybe working in one of these like 100 teams or like even 10 teams, how are they adding to that product vision? Because I imagine that is something they should do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Product managers, and look, there's actually something before I answer that question. There's actually something that comes before that, which is this idea that product strategy and product vision is owned by product management, just because there's the product word in it. But I mean, how about design? How about engineering? Of course, everybody needs to be part of it. Everybody needs to be part of setting, in a way, the strategy, with contributing with the insights that will be the foundation of that strategy. Everybody needs to be needs to have a voice, needs to express their opinion in a way. So it's a very collaborative, it's a super intensely, a very intense collaborative approach. So that's one thing I just wanted to clarify. But then, of course, the product manager has, I would say, an even more responsibility to also ensure that there is a vision and that there is a strategy as part of the product manager role. Now, how do you as a product manager contribute to this? Well, this really depends on the context, but in a solid, in my opinion, in a solid product organization, you have a product leader who is involving the product manager in this process of setting the vision. That product manager, and again, the extended team, like design, you can think even about the product trio, usually very vocal about these things. They are collaborating with the product leadership, bringing the insights so that the product leader is able to craft together with them the product vision and the product strategy. So it's a collaboration. It's not rocket science. The way they can add to that process in a way is by actually reviewing the first draft that it came up, having a conversation, saying, hey, look, I don't really like this, or I think this is too fluffy, doesn't mean anything. That kind of feedback needs to flow both ways, and it usually does in a strong product organization. At the end of the day, yeah.
No, please go ahead. At the end of the day,
no, I just wanted to summarize. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is to ensure that there is a vision, and usually that is the responsibility of the product leader. We have a vision. It is inspiring people. Everybody understands. I like the kind of the criteria that everybody is able to articulate the vision and the strategy in their own words. That's a sign that the story is well told, that they understood. So as long as these things are happening, like then you're good.
Are there any particular, because you said like obviously there should be a certain amount of collaboration, so that you can ensure that the whole company understands it, and that they also feel that it's tangible enough to act on it. Is there any particular formats that you have used in the past in order to make sure of that? Or is that a more, let's say, informal conversation you would normally have?
To ensure that that collaboration is happening, you mean? Or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it really depends on the context. It depends on how many teams you have. It depends on how senior the product managers are in those teams. It really depends. But I like to simplify this stuff, and it really is about talking with people. It's like if you are a product leader, you have one-on-ones when you're coaching the product managers, at least the product managers. You should be coaching the teams as well in different settings, but at least the one-on-one you have to have with the product manager. And that is a meeting for the product manager. It's a meeting where you start what's on your mind. It's a meeting to coach the product manager to help her succeed. But of course, it's also a tool that the product leader has to convey context by giving feedback, by sharing context whenever she feels she has to, and so very informal collaboration. And of course, then tied to it, there's more formal ceremonies that you can have. So a vision is something you don't iterate on the vision very often. Like a vision for software products, we're talking about 2 to 5 years. For hardware products, we usually talk about a more kind of 4 to 8 years, perhaps. And you don't really you can talk about it on a yearly basis, maybe, like, does this make sense still? You can, of course, have the conversation whenever you feel like it, but it's not very common. And if the vision is well set from before, it's not going to be very helpful to have that conversation. Now, when it comes to product strategy, however, of course, there's a bunch of ceremonies that need to happen. You need to review that strategy, those strategic intents, those outcomes very often. We can talk about it as well if you want to dive into kind of the product strategy part of it, Sebastian.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, they go hand in hand, right? Without a vision, you can't really come up with a proper strategy, and without a strategy, like, everything that you do on operational level is like super hard.
Yes.
But maybe let's come back to the one thing that you said, like, let's also talk about scalability when you talk about why can a product manager not be responsible for the product vision and the strategy, of course.
Yeah. So the way to think about this is, so I would like to reframe the question a bit, because it's more like, why is the product leader, or why should the product leader be the primary responsible for the product vision and strategy? Because, of course, like, it depends on the context. And again, in some contexts, like, let's say that you have a super senior product manager team, like you have a lot of very senior product managers in that company, and you have a new product leader that comes in. Of course, those product managers will help that product leader tremendously, and probably take over a little bit of those responsibilities to kind of help onboard even that product leader. So it's not black and white. But why is it important? Let's talk about the scalability point. Think about a large organization, and think about the concept of product vision and product strategy. So basically, again, product vision, the world we want to create; product strategy, how we're going to make that world a reality. What are the most important customer and business problems that we want to solve now? What's a potential sequence? What's our theory, basically, that will help us win in this market? Okay, so these are really important decisions. Like, these are very important, sometimes existential decisions, like which problems to solve. And a lot of times, for you to, or for the founders, let's say, or for the CEO, or even the board, to feel comfortable on empowering someone to make those decisions, that requires trust. And you can't, if you have, let's say, 200 product managers, and if everyone is accountable for creating their vision and strategy, how is it even possible for all of those product managers to create trust with the CEO, with the board, with other executives, with the founders? If it's a family-owned driven, with the family owners, like, how is it even physically possible to create that trust? Well, it usually isn't. And that's why we scale by adding the product leader role. In a large organization, you have to create several layers. I'm not a big fan of hierarchy. I can tell you right now, I'm not. I'm all for empowerment. I'm all for empowered teams. But that is why you need strong product leaders. It's because empowerment doesn't work if you don't have product leaders. That's the problem. The problem is that CEOs are reverting to command and control all the time, types of management styles, because they don't have product leaders. They don't have product leaders that are able to lead with context, product vision, product strategy, product principles, team objectives, and they're not able to coach their teams. And so they revert back to command and control, because that's what they know. Now, when you have strong product leadership, the teams have the context to make decisions. And the product leaders are focused on deciding which problems to solve, and the product teams are focused on deciding how to solve those problems. And it's scalable because I'm getting into it because the product leader is someone who has a seat at the table. Let's say a CPO, a chief product officer, is someone who is able to interact daily with the CEO, with the founders, with the board, and is able to represent product, on behalf of everyone in product, and has a seat at the table and has the trust to set that vision and that strategy.
So basically what you're saying, it's all about building relationships. And if you would kind of delegate, I'm saying delegate because like it's different from empowerment, right? So if you would delegate that just down to like 20 plus PMs, then you would always have that situation where like the 20 different PMs can't build the level of trust that a product leader could, and that is needed in order for the CEO to delegate that responsibility to the product leader, and the product leader to empower the teams to act on it, right?
Exactly. Not only that, but it's also required for the teams or the product manager to have the context needed to set a good product vision and strategy, because that relationship goes both ways. It's trust going, well, both ways, of course, but trust going from the product team to the CEO. Okay, the CEO says, yeah, you know what you're doing. Yes, go ahead and set up the vision and the strategy. Fine. But it's also a relationship that will enable the teams to really understand the board's motivations, to understand the company strategy in and out. And so the problem is that, when you delegate to individual contributor PMs, the product vision and the product strategy, it's something that not a lot of people talk about, but it's an uncomfortable situation that tends to happen in large organizations, which is, okay, well, now you're empowered to come up with a product vision and a product strategy. Everybody gets super excited. They have these templates and they have these different frameworks, and it's amazing. And you can see people are really brainstorming and talking together. And then they present it, and the CEO says, well, who told you that we had the appetite to invest in this specific segment? Who told you that the board has the ambitions to invest heavily in this and in this bet? Well, that is the context that was needed. It's the responsibility of the CEO to share that context. So this is not it's not on the teams. Like, the teams are doing what they want to do and they thought they should do. But of course, the CEO struggles in these large organizations to share the context with 100 PMs. And that's why in some of the most successful product organizations, let's say, you do have a CPO, you do have a product leadership team that is helping the product managers and creating the environment.
Oh, I think my internet just shortly broke. That
okay, but
yeah.
Did you? Where?
No. I got it. It was just
okay.
quickly broken. That's a German phenomenon. I'm sure that is hardly ever happening in the Scandinavian countries, but we're still doing very bad in that regard.
It could have been me. It seems to be okay, like full internet. But let me know if it happens again. I might have to check it.
No, I think that's on my part. Anyways, all right. So we talked a lot about trust now, but I mean, you also said like it's really hard. I mean, it's a hard job also for a CEO to delegate that kind of responsibility to someone else, right? Because obviously, ultimately, the CEO is accountable for everything that happens in the company, right? And the question that I'm now asking myself is not only towards the product leader, but also towards the different product managers, is what level of experience do I actually have to bring to the table to engage in these different activities? Because I mean, there's one thing that is still kind of stuck in my head, and that I'm like, I really hate this picture is like the CEO of the product. And I think like a lot of people, they come into product like entry level and they feel they are the CEO of the product and they are basically there to make all the decisions for the product, which is ultimately not really true, right? Because you have vision, you have like strategic boundaries. You might also, when you get into product, you are not really equipped to make the big decisions. So let's talk about a bit also about the talent, let's call it the talent expectation gap here, right?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yes, you are right about the mini CEO of the product. I strongly disagree with that idea. So I share the same thoughts, Sebastian. I think that's been a dangerous definition of what the product manager is. And so the way I like to explain this is product managers, they are primarily are you still there, Sebastian, by the way?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Okay, let me know if it's probably just the image, not the sound. Okay, but so the way I like to differentiate this, and it really helps to explain, is that you need to see product managers is a very different role than product leaders. Product leaders are, again, focused on strategic context and people management. So these are the two buckets. Strategic context, you have product vision, product strategy, product principles, and team objectives. And in people management, you have hiring. So you need to ensure that you're hiring the right people. You have team topologies. So you need to ensure that you're not only hiring the right people, but that you are organizing them in a way that enables smooth development. So you are defining types of teams, you're defining how they should interact with each other, and all that. And coaching. So those are the three, right? And the people management. The product manager, however, she's focused on deciding how to solve those problems. So basically doing continuous discovery, continuous delivery, and launching those products and managing them in the market. That is a very difficult job. When you work as a product manager in an empowered product team, it's a very tough job. You are basically ensuring, of course, together with the team, but you're basically ensuring that whatever you build is desirable, so people actually want that thing, that is feasible, you can actually build it, that is viable, it works for the business, sales can sell it, marketing can market it, it's compliant, all of that stuff, and it's usable. Users can actually use that thing. So you need to continuously test your assumptions, do the so-called continuous discovery, and you need to support the team continuously delivering those products, and you need to, together with marketing and sales, launch those products and managing their performance, and so on and so forth. The talent expectation point, I'm coming to that, Sebastian, because the skills you need to do this job that I just described, the product manager job in an empowered product team, that's a very specific skill set, a very difficult one to find, I would say, and very difficult. And to be a great product leader, it's also a different skill set, because you now all of a sudden, when you are a product leader, you need to communicate with the board, you need to communicate with the C-suite, you need to communicate with the teams, with other business leaders, and of course, product managers need to do that too, as well. Like, communication is, I would argue, the single most important skill a product manager can have. But it's even more important for product leaders, even more important. Because now all of a sudden you need to inspire a whole organization. You need to bring people together. You need to be able to coach them. You need to be able to give them feedback. You need to be able to align, connect the dots. You need to be able to facilitate and bring people together. It's a different skill set. And you need to have the financial fluency as well to have a seat at the table, to translate your product mindset, your product strategic intents into financial terms in a way, so that some people in the board actually manage to hear what you think, because that's what people want to hear when you are in a board meeting. So here's the thing. a lot of product managers do have that skill. So I want to make that clear. But a lot of them don't as well, because they're just starting. And there's nothing wrong about being junior. There's absolutely nothing wrong. It's amazing that people are breaking into product and trying to learn. I mean, we have all been there, literally. Everybody has to start somewhere. But again, when you start as a product manager, it's a lot if you are given the responsibility to create and own and evangelize the product vision and the product strategy for the whole company. It's a lot. Imagine, fresh out of school or with 1 or 2 years of experience, it's not very realistic. And I think that a lot of business leaders, a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs, they of course understand that, and therefore we go back to the trust issue as well. And that's why there's this incentive to create this career ladder with more and more and more senior people, which is what happens. Like you do have different levels with different seniority and with different skills. You can be a great product leader, not being a very good product manager. You can be an amazing product manager, the best a company has ever seen, and not be a very strong product leader, because guess what? You don't even like to manage people. There's nothing wrong. Like it's just career decisions. It boils down to what you want to do, to your passions, to what you're strong at, to whatever you want to do with your career.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially about like juniority, because I mean, we see that also constantly in the product masterclass, and also from our personal experience, right? So I come from engineering, for instance. So when I broke into product, I wasn't even like, I didn't even really fully understand what the role meant, to be honest.
Right.
Because from an engineering point, I was just like, oh yeah, I can write like the greatest or like the best requirements for engineers, but that's not what the job is at all about, right? And I mean, I think this is like really important, especially like if someone is watching that is currently just like breaking into product. I think the most important thing is to actually understand what is expected of you, and then basically start to learn the skills that you basically need, because in product it's a lot of skills. It's not like for instance, I mean, obviously also in engineering you need a lot of skills, but it's more, I always feel, for instance, in engineering, it's more clear what is expected of you, right? You should write robust, reliable code. You made sure that it's like great architecture, but it's like more clear, yeah. And so in any case, so if anybody of you is breaking into product out there, like maybe first job or like two years in, you should definitely check out something that we should do. And I'm really sorry, like you have to now like move to the left here a bit. So
Gotcha.
If you are interested in that, so we're running a format called the Product Masterclass, and this is actually specifically designed for people who are just like breaking into product. But we also had the experience that people who are in product for like 3-4 years, they benefit greatly, because there's like an open cohort where you can exchange with other product people, and also that exchange is usually like super valuable, because when you are stuck in one company, then it's sometimes a bit hard to burst out of your bubble a bit. But maybe let's come back also to what I mean. There's one thing I like when you said like, all right, so the system is kind of designed in a way that we have like these different ladders, and then basically you kind of level up into, first of all, maybe like a senior product manager role, and then there's always this kind of branch where you can branch out into leadership, right? Yeah, the dual thing, exactly.
Yeah.
And the question is, and now I'm coming back to a rather, maybe that will be a bit weird, but I will try anyways. So because we talked a lot about leadership, and we talked about how the product managers are not responsible, but yet there's actually a very like well-known and often used framework out there that is kind of advocating exactly like a completely different view. So when we talk about a Scrum, right? And we talk about like all the mechanisms that are advocated in Scrum, you could get the idea that PMs and POs are actually responsible for the product vision, because they talk a lot about product goal. They talk a lot about how the PM, or in this case, the PO as a role, is responsible for driving the value in a product. So there's a lot of like small things, and it's vague enough that you could get the idea of CEO of the product, what we talked about, or that you are actually responsible for that kind of work. So product vision and strategy.
Yes. Yeah. And so the way I think about this is that regardless of Scrum, so one caveat there, there's nothing in the Scrum guide that says that this is the responsibility of the product owner. So just to make it clear. However, as you said, most of the books on product ownership, most of the courses out there, most of the articles out there, indeed, most of the Scrum advocates, they do advocate for, in some shape or form, some more vocally than others, that this is the responsibility of the product owner. There's an idea here, which is these the strategic context, the product vision and the product strategy, they are usually associated with product management, right? And the problem is that we need to decouple within the bucket of product management. We need to decouple these two roles: product manager, product leader. They're two different roles, two different skill sets, two different people in most companies. Not all. You can have a very small organization, you don't need it. But in most companies, two different roles. And yet we talk about the product management, and so we bucket everything together, and it creates this illusion that, well, then the product vision is the product owner. However, we get into all the kind of the arguments we discussed before, Sebastian. The scalability, it's not scalable. The strategic implications, I mean, just think about it. You have 100 POs or whatever. It's just not feasible.
It's a nightmare.
It's just not feasible. It's impossible that all of those 100 people will be aligned in a common North Star. It's just not feasible in my opinion. And also the skill expectation. I would argue that another point is the time, because if you're already super busy with ensuring that you're building the right product and ensuring that you're building it right together with the team, good luck having time zooming out, interacting with the CEO almost on a daily basis, interacting with other business leaders, getting the kind of the high level strategic sight of everything. It's very difficult, and that's why a product leader is usually the right way to scale. Yeah.
You know what? So we got it woven in kind of elegantly, because that gave you a possibility to sum it up again, what we have talked about basically in the last 40 minutes. I just wanted to bring it up because you kind of like what I see a lot is that the way Scrum is taught, and also the articles you were talking about, is obviously not explicitly mentioned, but people get kind of the feeling. And also, I mean, I don't blame anybody for that. Like, I believe that for a long time as well, or like at least in the beginning, just because it also makes you feel very good about it, right? So when you hear CEO of the product, that's just like, oh yeah, awesome, I'm CEO of the product. Yeah, that's great. All right, so then let's open it up for questions. So if you have any questions for Afonso, now is the time to ask them. It would be super great if you are in a very specific situation, if you could also provide some context in terms of maybe how big the company is, what your role is. So that makes it a lot easier to answer it, because I think especially in product, the answer is more often than not, it depends. It's like it's never really black and white, which makes it also like a super hard job. Afonso, you have written a book, right?
I've written
bridge it a bit.
Yeah, thanks. I've written an ebook called The PM Growth Bubble. It's basically a guide to help foster great coaching conversations. So you can use it both as a product manager that is trying to either someone breaking into product or a product manager who's trying to improve. So you can use that as a guide. There's tons of resources in there. And you can use it as a product leader to have better coaching conversations with your teams as well. So it's not a published book or anything. It's just something I did. I wrote basically in an ebook format. I published it for free. If you go to my LinkedIn, there's the link there as well. Yeah,
we will also post it in the chat for you.
Cool. Nice.
And if you are interested in hearing more great people, like product people like Afonso, we're actually hosting a yearly product conference called Just Product in Munich. And even if Munich is way too far away to travel, then you can still attend it online, and it's actually free. So this year we had amazing speakers like Marty Kagan and Ash Murray joining us. And for next year, we already have Afonso and me. We recognized or really realized before we went live that we actually both know him. It's Ryan Singer, and he is the author of Shape Up, a book he wrote during his time at 37 Signals, which is kind of like when I talk about this, I usually describe it to people. It's a method that is kind of combining delivery and discovery, and it's more, let's say, a product-driven methodology to building products than, for instance, Scrum is, which is like mostly focused actually on delivery. And that's why I love this a lot. And if you want to see Ryan next year, definitely make sure to attend. I think we have a couple of questions. So the first one is from Felix. What are the different role distinctions between a product manager and a product leader, and what are risks around such model? For example, I could think of a top-down management.
Yeah, so let me just see. What are the different role distinction between a product manager and a product leader? So again, I would refer back to the buckets that I was talking about before. You can think about as product leaders are primarily responsible for deciding which problems to solve, and the product managers deciding how to solve those problems. So that's a helpful definition. However, caveat, very important. Just because the product leaders are responsible for deciding which problems to solve, it doesn't mean that they do it by themselves in a closed room. Everybody knows that to have a solid product strategy, you need insights. And those insights usually come from the teams as well. Like a lot of the insights, quantitative insights, qualitative insights, all that work, all those insights from testing the assumptions that comes and needs to, that has to be a feedback loop to the product leader to make sure that that product strategy is defined well. So product leaders, which problems to solve, strategic context, people management, coaching is part of it, and the product managers deciding how to solve those problems, which basically means continuous discovery, continuous delivery, and go-to-market and management.
Is there any? Would you say that there's any risks associated with having such a model? So in terms of, I mean, obviously in product we are always very concerned with like empowerment and making sure that you have a lot of bottom-up decisions in the company.
Absolutely. There is a risk if you have a weak product leader. Let's put it that way. Why? Because when you don't have a strong product leader, that person will struggle to empower the team with the context they need to make those decisions. So what's going to happen? That product leader will probably make the decisions herself or himself. Mm-hmm. And then you get into what Felix is arguing, like top down. When you have a product leader that has been put in that position to arguably, or in theory, to kind of help the teams and to be accountable for the product strategy and the product vision, and that person doesn't know how to collaborate, doesn't know how to facilitate, is not coaching the teams, doesn't understand that a core part, if not the most important part of her role, is to set the teams up for success. If she still thinks that her job is to use the teams to get the results, basically, then you get into probably a top-down behavior, you command and control, and all of those anti-patterns that you see. That's actually a big problem. But I would say it's agnostic of whether you have a product leader or not. Actually, when you do not have a product leader, it's very common that you do have this risk, more so than if you have a bad one, I would argue.
Perfect. So we have another one. Oh, that's actually focused on the product owner career. What's the best roadmap to becoming a world-class product owner?
Okay, so I do want to make a distinction here, just because I understand that this distinction is not so evident for everyone. So I just want to make sure everybody's in the same page, so we're speaking the same language. I do think it's important to differentiate product manager and product owner. And I know a lot of product owners who are primarily focused on just managing the backlog. It's the Scrum trap in a way. So they are focused only in, well, most of their day is basically administrative work, supporting the Scrum team. And then the product manager in an empowered product team with a product trio and all that, it's a very different job, right? Responsible for actually accountable for actually business results, responsible for actually discovering solutions, testing those solutions, and so on. The path, the roadmap for becoming a great product owner, in my view, would be to evolve into a product manager role, because that is the role you should be into, I believe. The path to becoming a great product manager is, simply put, if you're a part of a good organization with a strong product leader who's able to coach you, that is the best. Like, if you ask me what's the easiest way I can become a really strong PM, well, get a coach, get a good coach, get someone to help you that has been there, done that. And we're talking about like 3 months you get up to speed if you're breaking into product, for example. So we're not talking about like a 5-year learning plan or whatever. If you have a good coach, we're talking about a few months, you're up to speed to competent level, to kick ass in your organization. Other ways to do, to search learning and to become a great product, follow great people out there. I don't want to sell my ebook. Actually, it's for free, so there you go. It's out there. But if you want to check the PM Growth Bubble, this is spot on for this question. It's a framework with, I think, more than 100 books, lots of different articles, people you can follow, a framework to help you guide your progress. You can self-assess yourself with some expected behaviors. You have questions for reflection. So I put a lot of work to share that with the community for free. So you can check that. I think that would be a good start. Getting a coach, attending great conferences like Product Masterclass, Just Product is one of the ways you can also get in touch with other people. Brainstorming. Something I did early in my career was to just contact people on LinkedIn, like other product leaders. I still do, by the way, but I did more so when I was starting. Just literally contacting lots of different product managers in different organizations and asking, how do you approach this? How do you approach that? Walk me through. Can we have a 15-minute coffee? You will learn so much by just having those conversations.
Yeah, and the great thing is that the product bubble especially is, like, I feel like, super helpful in that regard. So it's a good community for sure. All right. Oh, it's now. Which one are we taking next? There was like a question, because you mentioned it again about the product trial, and what roles the product trio specifically consists of?
Yeah, great question. I should have specified before the Amelin. So product trio is basically design lead, tech lead, and product manager. So you have someone representing design, usually a product designer. It can be a service designer, it can be an industrial designer, whatever it is that you're building, it doesn't really matter, but someone from design who takes kind of the lead design role. The product manager representing the business, representing product, and you have a tech lead who can be just a more senior engineer representing tech, representing the engineers. And the important part of why this is important for this trio to test solutions together is because they are better equipped to address each of these risks. Product managers have a strong background in business, ideally, and so they are better equipped than anyone else to address the viability risk. Designers, they're better equipped with the background they have to address the usability risk, to address the desirability risk together with the product manager, and feasibility that falls under the tech lead primarily. Of course, everybody is responsible, but each of these roles are particularly accountable for taking care of some of these risks.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference, by the way. I mean, there's a lot of product managers that constantly have problems that once they bring, if you are talking Scrum or like any other thing you are using, if they bring things to refinement, that basically the engineers are picking it apart. It's like, that can't be done, that can't be done. And that can be heavily mitigated by the product trio, actually.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see. Oh, there's a thank you already. So thank you, Afonso, for clarifying. Oh, yeah, that is also a good one. When you say that product managers decide how to solve problems, that is together with the team based on discovery?
Yeah, correct, Jacqueline. The product managers, again, back to that point that Sebastian made before, the mini CEO of the product, that, in the best product teams, that doesn't exist. Like, everybody is working super intensely, super closely together. Designer has a equal strong say as the product manager. The tech lead, even as everybody is equal, right? The product manager is basically gluing everyone together, and again, ensuring. Actually, Ken Norton puts it: the product manager is bringing the donuts. Is ensuring that people are actually collaborating and doing the job. And ultimately, I like to see this. I have a sports background, as Sebastian said before, and I like to think about the product manager as the captain of the team. It's exactly the same level, but it's just ensuring that the team is delivering, and if the team is failing, it's the first one raising their hand saying, hey, this is on me. So basically, they're working together to solve those problems. Yes, doing discovery together.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying that. I think we have time for maybe one or two more. I think that is a quite interesting one. So it's about innovation. So when it comes to innovation, do product leaders play a significant role, or should it be a dedicated leader to find innovation on discovering what's next? I think that is targeted towards, should there be like a separate innovation unit in a company to
Gotcha. Okay, this is an interesting question. It's a tricky one as well. Generally speaking, my rule of thumb, and what I would advise in general terms everyone to do, is to have the product teams responsible for innovating on behalf of their customers. And so you do not have these innovation hubs that are separate, detached from the mothership in a way. There are some companies who do have this in addition to their product organization. They have these either a detached innovation department, so-called, or even like innovation studios that are detached from the whole bureaucracy of the company and so on. In general, you do want to create the innovation engine inside the company. You want to have product teams working together who work with a product leader that is representing product at the table in executive management team. And so when it comes to innovation, do product leaders play a significant role? Absolutely. Regardless if you are in a startup environment where the biggest, most important thing is to find product market fit, a great product leader is crucial for that. And if you are in a large organization, you need to have competent people. You need to have someone coaching those teams and hiring the right people. You need to have someone who's creating the right environment, the right system around for those teams to succeed. You have to have someone who's leading with context, sharing the context so that people are able to make good decisions. It's incredibly important role.
One follow-up. I have one follow-up. Is
Yeah,
there
go
like a rule of thumb? Because I mean, you often have like when companies have like separate innovation departments, fairly often they are also assessing like completely different business models or like just a completely different market, right? And the question is like, how far does it have to be from the actual product when you would say, maybe it just makes sense to just put that elsewhere? Or is it always the case that you would say, all right, even if it's like a completely different market, I would rather have like a product, like the same product leader basically driving it, but I have just like a separate team maybe to drive that organization. That would be more the like inside approach, right?
Yeah, I love the strategizer innovation spectrum to tackle this question. The exploit and explore. So when you are exploiting the current business, you're trying to grow the current business, you're developing products that are basically adjacent innovation and incremental innovation, right? And then sometimes you want to aim for something completely disruptive, something completely new, a completely new market. And in that sense, what Strategizer calls the explore domain, you need people usually with different skill sets. Like you can have a product manager who's extremely good at growing an existing business. That person might not have the right skills to find a new business, which is, it requires some different skill sets. So yes, my recommendation is when you do make a decision as a company to go after a new market or a completely new segment with something new, do create a new product team. And my recommendation is start with a product trio. Start with a product trio reporting to a product director, tasked to find product market fit for that new solution. And as you bring evidence, you basically staff the team more and more and more. Invincible Company, that's a great book that talks about this, if you want to dig into kind of more of the details on it.
Definitely. That was already 1 hour, so time flies by. I'm so sorry that we couldn't answer every question in the chat. I mean, if you have questions after the event, I'm sure Afonso is more than happy to answer them. So definitely get in touch with Afonso or myself on LinkedIn. Afonso, thank you so much for being here and gifting us an hour of your time, especially in product that's really hard to carve out. And
thanks, my pleasure, Sebastian.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, we have visited so many different topics here today, from talent expectation gap to strategical obstacles to scalability to, we kind of talked about Scrum a bit. We talked about different roles, how systems, or like how basically the industry or like the industry designs systems for talent to level up. We talked about the dual track leadership management and a lot of other things that I've probably missed now. And it was really amazing having you here with us today.
Awesome. It was my pleasure. And yes, please reach out if you have any questions. I'd love to meet new people, would love to hear from you. So just reach out on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to help. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. So any last words? Because the last words before we finish today, you can have them if you want to. So if you want to sum it up in your own words, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, no, I think you summarized it perfectly. I just want to say that if you have any other questions, then please reach out. I do some coaching on the side as well. So I coach CPOs and also product managers. Please reach out if you need any help. And again, like PM Growth Bubble, that's an ebook that might be helpful for you if you're either breaking into product or trying to develop as a product manager, or if you're a product leader who wants to coach your teams in a better way than you're doing today. Feel free to check it out, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions as well. Lovely to be here. It was a great conversation. I hope you all found it insightful as well.
I'm sure they did. All right. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
everybody, for joining, and hopefully see you next time. So if you want to be up to date for our next events, definitely make sure you will get an email afterwards, also with the recording. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter, and we will keep you up to date for any upcoming events. So that's it. Have a lovely evening.